Hey, how's it going, everyone? A couple of days ago, I did a video where I talked about Iron Man Demon in a Bottle, and during that video, I spoke about I spoke a little bit about the importance of pacing in um, that storyline in particular, and in comic books as a whole. I said that that was basically the template that comic book creators should use for pacing in any of their stories. Um, so I want to kind of expand on that, on the whole, my whole point about pacing. I want to compare the pacing in some modern storylines that I think is either done well, done not so well, or kind of in the middle. So I want to start off with the storyline that I don't think tackles pacing that well. And it's the Spider-Man storyline where he fights Regent. I haven't, power play. That's the arc title. That's the title of the storyline. Came out in 2016. Written by Dan Slott, art by Cameron Coley, and I think the pacing, especially when this came out, I didn't like the arc at all. I didn't like a lot of Dan Slott on Spider-Man, and I feel like it all kind of had the same problem throughout it. But here, it definitely shows Slott's problem with pacing storylines. Certainly more than anything else that he's done. So we have a new villain introduced in the form of Regent, and he gets very little time in the actual comic itself. It's basically Tony Stark and Iron Man meet up at some gala. They kind of butt heads because at this point Mary Jane is working for Tony Stark, and it looks as though she's building a romantic relationship with him, and Peter Parker's getting a bit jealous of that. So they butt heads, and then the Ghost attacks this fundraiser gala thing. So Iron Man and Spider-Man have to team up, but they're both butting heads to see who actually should be taking down Ghost, because he's an Iron Man villain, but he recently has started fighting against Spider-Man. So I thought that was kind of fun. And then Regent is introduced at the end of that issue, and it's basically revealed that he's been kidnapping superheroes and supervillains, and he's kind of stealing their powers. And yeah, it's kind of cool, but you've got such a big storyline that should really be an event, like a supervillain kidnapping superheroes and supervillains and stealing their powers, and it's reduced into a 4-issue arc, and the problems that I have don't actually arise until the final issue, because how they resolve it is very easy. We cut from Mary Jane Watson being given her own spider suit, and then we cut to them we have a little fight, with everyone fighting, with Mary Jane in the Iron Spider fighting Regent. We have Iron Man fighting Regent, and Spider-Man and Miles Morales team up to free all the other superheroes, and we go from them being freed to immediately he's in prison. We skip that entire fight, and right at the end of the issue, without any build-up or anything, J. Jonah Jameson's dad, who has been forming a romantic relationship with Aunt May at this point, he just starts coughing and then collapses. He just collapses. There's no build up for this. Like, we have him collapse and Aunt May like coughs up some blood. And the thing that I spoke about in Demon in a Bottle is that kind of stuff is like played out through the background of the story arc. There's no build up to that. It's literally just, we fight the villain, we save the day, it all looks happy, and then collapses. And it's the end of the arc. And it leads into an even more terrible arc called The Clone Conspiracy, which I don't want to talk about. If you want to hear someone talk about how terrible that was, there's a YouTube channel called Comic Pop that because they need the shout out from me. But yeah, they did a pretty good video on The Clone Conspiracy and talking about how terrible it is. But yeah, everything in that just seems rushed, really, and that's just my opinion. It just seems a bit rushed. I think Spirits of Vengeance actually tackles pacing pretty well. The team, it takes a while for the team to actually come together. The team doesn't come together until, like, the second issue. And most team books have, like, the first arc for the team to actually come together. This one, it's a mini-series, so they only have one arc to, like, gel together properly and to make it work. And I feel like they make it work. Where it goes downhill is it spends so much time on the heroes that the villains kind of get forgotten about. And there's some characters in here that don't get to shine as much as they should, like Blade, because it's all kind of Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider gets all of the big action sequences, and he gets the big action sequence at the end. Like, nothing cool happens to do with Blade. Damon Hellstrom and Satana get some cool moments, but that's about it. Most of it's all Ghost Rider. And I feel like with a team book, you have to make every member of the team important. And that's just not what happens with Blade on this. But the pacing is okay. I feel like they could have given us a bit more of, they could have made this at least, like, maybe 1 or 2 issues longer, and then we could have had a bit more of Blade, and a bit more of the villains, and a bit more of the war that was meant to be this big thing. I just feel like for something that's built up to be this big storyline, it just kind of feels a bit small at the end. Or it felt a bit small at the end. And now I'll talk about a book that came out quite recently, just after Secret Wars, that is a hidden gem and tackles pacing a whole lot better than anything else I've read recently. And it's Hercules. And do you know why this tackles pacing so well? It's because Hercules issues 1 through 6, the first, like, 3 issues are seen as, like, they're almost episodic in a way. The first issue deals with him like he's in an apartment, he's down on his luck, but he's trying to deal with his alcoholism. He's got a roommate, he's like helping out his landlord, and he's just like kind of being a street level guy. And then he fights these big monsters as well, and that is cool, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see like equal time being shared between his like regular life and his big superhero life. And it all comes to a head in issue 4, where we see the villains come in, and there is equal time spent towards the villains, and they're built up. It's built up because Hercules keeps getting these like messages from Athena, and these messages from Athena, or he doesn't really like receive any like words. She just pops up and he knows, oh shit, someone's gonna go down, because when Athena shows up, it's essentially like the Watcher showing up, like this shit is about to get real. And it has that final issue that's kind of the crux. It's not a big smackdown drag out fight. It is kind of more the calm before the storm, because it does follow on to the Gods of War storyline that was a Civil War II tie-in that really had nothing to do with Civil War II. But the Gods of War 4-issue miniseries was still good, and it is a decent conclusion to the story that started in this. But it didn't really need to be a Civil War II tie-in, and it is better than the actual Civil War II main comic. And if it didn't have the Civil War II name on it, I feel like it could have been even more better. What I don't really understand is why they felt the need to stop this at issue 6 and then change the title. I feel like they could have just had the one issue, they could have like kept it going for 7, 8, 9, 10. But that's just me. Well, I feel like the pacing is perfect because there's build up, the execution, the big fight, and of course it all leads to Gods of War, which is the build up of a team of like gods, essentially. So it does its job, and it does it well, and it is a damn good storyline that I recommend to anyone who is a fan of Hercules, or not just is a fan of Hercules, just is a fan of like good stories in general. I'm not going to say it's perfect. It doesn't tackle like there's a few things that I wish they would have kept more time on, and there's a few things that they spend a bit too much time on. But as far as pacing in modern day comics go, it doesn't get much better than Hercules by Dan Abnett. So yeah, that's just kind of my little rundown on kind of the importance of pacing in comic books these days. It is almost like story arcs are kind of forgetting about pacing. There's either too much writing for the trade, or they're condensing down their story arcs. Something that I found with Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run is that most of his arcs, apart from his first and his latest, either 2 or 3 issues. And I don't know if I like that or not. I mean, the actual storylines, I feel like it works for that because it is more of a funny book, it is more of a comedy book. But I also feel in the mindset that I would like some more like longer running storylines or story arcs that dealt more with that were better paced. I can do the 3-issue arcs for something that's like filler, but then if you have like issue 6 all the way to issue like 15 being if you have issue 6 all the way up to issue 15 being like 3-issue arcs, that kind of, it's kind of a bit peeving. I get a bit peeved about that. It's a bit of my bugbear. Like, really short story arcs is kind of a bugbear of mine. Longer one, because it always feels like they have to do a lot in that 3rd issue. At least in my opinion, they have to like bring it all back, and they kind of they will cut themselves off in that 2nd issue, and they will need to kind of do something silly or something they need to do something like that's kind of a cop out to beat the bad guy in the 3rd issue, or to end that arc in the 3rd issue. That's just my opinion. I feel like there's too many three-issue arcs in comics these days, or at least in Marvel comics these days. I just want storylines to go on for longer, or go on for as long as they should go, not be cut short. But anyway, that's my opinion. If you share my opinion, put it in the comments. If you have a different opinion, put it in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit everything. Usual links will be in the description to my social medias, my Twitter, my Instagram, Patreon if you feel like supporting the channel. Don't feel obligated to do it. Don't. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.